It's been a calm 6 years since my last video, but let's just move right past that and pretend it didn't happen. If you want shorter Civ games that you can complete in under 3 hours, dislike large amounts of micromanagement, or are just a fan of having less cities, CypRyan's Wide and Tall is a heavily rewarded mod on Steam Workshop that provides a better pathway to the tall playstyle in Civ 6. It's widely recognized that in Civ 6 specifically, going tall with less than 4 or 5 cities is egregiously inferior to having 10 plus cities. And if you're a high-level player and play competitive multiplayer or Deity, you can probably sympathize with this point of view. Civ 6 in truth is built and always has been built for wide gameplay. There's a grand canyon of a gap between the tall playstyle and the wide playstyle. The mod I'm showcasing today shortens that gap to a simple riverbed instead of a Grand Canyon, but going wide is still going to be better competitively. However, the mod's purpose is it provides the option of going tall as a semi-viable strategy. Before we start the video, a quick disclaimer. I do not consider myself an expert in Civ 6. I do play on Deity with AI enhancing mods to make the bots a bit smarter, but it's worth it to point out that all the gameplay in the background throughout this entire video is done in single player, and it's at the highest difficulty I could make it. I have played this mod in multiplayer and it works perfectly fine. However, no offense to my friends that I played with, but they aren't super great, so I felt like it would be misleading for me to include that footage in the video, so you're not going to see it. Okay, let's get started with the showcase, and then we'll go into my final review of the mod at the end of the video. Of course, feel free to read along. There's quite a bit of information on the mod page, and it will be linked in the description of the video. The wall of text and graphs can get a bit overwhelming when looking at the Steam page, and I thought a video might help some people understand the mod a little bit better. Hopefully it's CypRyan and not CYPRyan, but let's start with what CypRyan's Wide and Tall sets out to accomplish. The first worthy note is that this mod takes nothing away from the regular gameplay. If you like building wide, huge empires, great. Nothing has changed for you at all. All this mod does is make one of the major playstyles of Civ 6 more viable and accessible to all players. There are 3 major mechanics to this mod, and in this segment of the video, I'm going to be going through them all. First, we're going to start with the boosted city growth. This is very easy to understand. It's probably the most basic mechanic of this 3. All this does is provide a scaling bonus to your city growth throughout the game. The lower numbers of cities you have, the higher the bonus is. You will notice complete stagnation at 10 cities. This mechanic specifically considers 10 cities wide, and there will be no bonus whatsoever. Contrastingly, you will receive the maximum bonus of 20% growth if you have only 1 or 2 cities in the industrial era and onward. I don't think there's too much for me to dive into here. It helps balance out the total population with wide players a little bit better. It's not even going to be close. Wide players will always have more population, but it does help even the odds. Next, let's talk about the yield bonus mechanic. This is still very easy to understand, but it does have a couple more restrictions than that of the previous mechanic we just talked about, which was about city growth. The yield bonus mechanic grants a huge bonus to science, faith, culture, and great person points if your city has a high population and you have less than 7 cities total in your empire. You'll remember the previous mechanic we went over had its stagnated value at 10 cities. This mechanic's stagnated value is 7, so you want to keep that in mind. One 20 population city receives a massive 50% bonus to science, faith, culture, and great person points. We're looking at the green line here, which means you must have 20 population in all your cities to get this maximum bonus. You can see this value drastically drops after each new city you make. It goes from 50% at 1 city to 35% at 2, then 25% at 3, and 15% at 4. Again, the green line is the maximum bonus, meaning you need at least 20 population in all of those cities. More realistically, you probably should be looking at the yellow or blue line if you plan to have between 3 and 4 cities, but that depends on your playstyle and skill. One thing that's worthwhile to note is that the bonuses do not have restrictions on the era. If you happen to hit a god spawn and are surrounded with food tiles, you could achieve this yield bonus very early in the game, potentially even in the ancient era. It would be hard to get 12 pop in one city super early, but if you do, you're looking at a nice juicy 10% bonus to all your yields, and it's only going to get better as the game goes on. Finally, for the third and final mechanic, we're going to be talking about tall building extensions. These are without a doubt the most complex feature to understand, but they are powerful, and understanding how they work will give you a massive edge in addition to the other bonuses I previously mentioned. Let's first talk about what building extensions do before we dive in how you're supposed to earn them. So, building extensions are powerful improvements that are added on additionally to pre-existing buildings. For example, if you build a university, you can then build a university extension if you have a free extension slot available. Again, we're going to be talking about how you earn these slots in a minute, but knowing what the improvements do first is more important. If we look at the tall bank extension compared to the regular bank, we can see all the additional bonuses. Keep in mind, you do not erase the basic building when making an extension. If you build the tall bank extension, you would in fact keep all the regular bonuses of the basic bank building. Tall extensions all have their default bonuses. In this case, we can see that international trade routes to and from the city provide +2 gold, and you get +1 Great Merchant Point per every 10 population in the city. But they also have different benefits depending on what governors are in the city. There are usually 3 governor bonuses per tall extension. The first is a general bonus for any governor in the city. The second is generally the best, but requires a specific governor and at least 1 promotion. The last is usually still good and requires a basic governor, but you don't need any promotions if you don't want. I'm pretty sure every secondary and tertiary building has an extension. For example, for the commercial hub, the market is the primary upgrade and doesn't have an extension, but the bank is the secondary and the stock market is the tertiary, and both of those do. So building extensions are pretty powerful, but how do you earn them? It's easier to understand if you think of tall building extensions as empire-wide districts. In Civ 6, obviously, you get more district slots depending on that one city's population. Building extension slots are earned after your empire hits a total population goal. The population you must reach to earn extension slots is significantly lower if you have fewer cities. If you have 2 or 3 cities, you need 15 population to earn your first building extension. Every 2 population across your empire, in this case, in 2 or 3 cities, gives you a new slot. Contrastingly, if you have 10 cities, you need 29 total population to get just 1 slot, and you need 5 population growth to get another. There seems to be no cap in the number of cities you can have before you get an extension. Obviously, if you have something like 15 cities, you follow the formula here, you would need 39 total population for you just to get 1 extension slot. So that was a lot, I know, but that's just the basics for the 3 major mechanics for the mod. If you can wrap your head around those 3 things, it's going to be very easy for you to understand and win your games. There are also some minor adjustments that this mod has, and I'll be talking about that in 1 second, but the most important thing I really want to nail home is that you understand how the building extensions work. They are extremely powerful, and knowing which ones are better to build for your specific governor is also very important. Because you don't get to build all of them, you have to make your choice, and your choices have to matter. Okay, so let's talk about some minor mechanics, and the first one is the easiest one, Great People. Great People, or a few of them, have been adjusted to apply bonuses not only to the basic building, but to the extension as well. I will have a screenshot on screen of these Great People adjustments. Very simple to understand, but basically a straight buff to these Great People. Era dedications. There's a new era dedication called City Life, and you have to scroll down on the page to see it, and it's at the very bottom. If you're in a golden age, you get a bunch of bonuses, 15% growth, a bunch of stuff, and if you're in a normal age, you get this other version, which gives you an era score every time your capital's population increases. Pretty easy to understand. Although the City Life dedication looks really strong, there are times when I chose not to pick it, and I'm sure you will too. It really depends on your current situation, but just know that it's not always going to be the best choice. Projects. There is a new city project called Abandoned City. This turns any city into a free city with 0 grievances against you. I've had 1 instance where I have used this ability. When I was playing China, another civ settled really close to me and the loyalty flipped. It messed up the bonuses and stuff for the rest of my city, so I just had to keep abandoning it over and over and over again. Needless to say, it is a valuable tool, although it is only used in niche situations. Finally, we're going to talk about the policy cards. There are 3 new ones, and similar to the Great People, there are adjustments for 7 other policy slots to synergize better with tall building extensions. The 3 new policy cards are the big deal though. These often provide crazy bonuses to your cities as long as you have over 22 population and you have a maximum of 7 cities. These bonuses are furthered with an interesting caveat. If your empire has only 5 cities maximum, you additionally get a small bonus per population in your empire, which usually equates to quite a good chunk. These policy cards are ridiculous, and you can net hundreds of science, culture, and faith. As long as you have 5 cities maximum, these 3 cards are what will give you the biggest tall empire power spike in the game without question. If you go to the end of game report, you will see the massive jump in the line graph when you put those policy cards in. That's the end of the showcase/guide segment of this video, and now I'm going to provide my review of CypRyan's Wide and Tall. So, I have played 6 games on Deity or Deity Plus, whatever you want to call it, with the AI enhancement mod. I played Portugal with 1 city, the Sumerians with 2, China with 3, Arabia with 4, and the Inca with 5. As you would expect, the more cities I had, the more powerful I was, despite the bonuses from this mod. I got a turn 180-ish science victory with the Inca, and to put that in perspective, I think it took me to turn 250-ish with Portugal to win the same science victory. Granted, the Portugal 1 city challenge was really fun, and it only took me 2 hours to do. I did an entire science victory game in Civilization VI in 2 hours real time. Obviously, the less cities you have, the less micromanagement you have to do, but I was cranking through the turns. In fact, all of these games on screen took me less than 3 hours to beat, which really renewed my love for this game. If you work a full-time job or you're a student, you'll sympathize with me in saying that it's tough to crank out an entirety Deity game on standard speed because you're looking at a 6 to 10 hour commitment, especially if you're not an expert and can click really quickly. But I gotta say, this is one of the reasons, if not the main reason, I can't ever see myself not playing without this mod. It allows me to play multiple Civ 6 games in one day on standard speed, and that's just a crazy achievement in and of its own right. There's a lot of people out there who just can't stand the huge time commitment for one Civ game, and I think this mod has a perfect solution. So saying that, there's no world where I wouldn't suggest for you to include this mod in your collection, especially if you find the long games of Civ 6 a bit tedious or you find the high levels of micromanagement difficult. Maybe you have a hand injury, maybe you just have a lot of work to do for the week, but this mod allows you to play tall in a way that you can still win games and enjoy it. I have a couple suggestions/critiques for this mod, I'll say just in case CypRyan ends up watching it, or maybe you'll be able to find a mod on the Steam community that's able to compensate. My first suggestion is that I think there should be an option or a policy card for domination going tall. And I know those kind of sound like oxymorons, but right now, if you capture a city, you're basically forced to raise it, or it can mess up your timings really bad to your growth, yield, or policy cards with the mod. You can just lose a load of science by accidentally capturing a city. I think there should be a militaristic policy card that states that your captured capitals from other civilizations do not count toward your city maximum. I think you should still be forced to essentially raise non-capital cities, and if you did choose to keep it, it would count toward your total cities, but I don't think you should be penalized for trying to attempt a domination victory with a tall 2 to 3 city empire. Not sure how hard it would be to actually implement, but I made a quick policy card template on what I think it could look like. I just called it National Pride. I made it in like 30 seconds. Captured capitals do not count toward total city number. However, these capitals can no longer construct tall extensions and do not get tall bonus yields. They'd basically just be like a regular vanilla city, but you can hold on to them for the domination victory without your entire empire suffering for the rest of the game. My second and final suggestion is that I also think tall building extensions should only be allowed if you have 10 cities maximum. I do believe there should be a limit on who can make them in a Civ 6 game. Not to mention, this is the only mechanic for the entire mod that bleeds into regular play. And what I mean by that is, if you choose to play wide, like a regular Civ game, you will start to see the extension slots pop up in your gameplay, even though you're not playing tall. Although you might only be able to make 1 or 2 extensions with 10 to 20 cities, it still bleeds through into the wide gameplay, and I think it shouldn't, but that's just me. Going wide is already better than going tall even with this mod, and the extensions are pretty powerful themselves. Giving wide players the option just to construct 1 or 2 could be detrimental to other tall players in the game. In my opinion, especially in multiplayer as I've seen it, it can be detrimental to a competitive environment, and it does take away from the tall experience with this mod. In my opinion, it should be an exclusive improvement for tall players. If you build it in a city and then expand past 10, sure, that's fine, but you shouldn't be able to have 10 and then earn your first one. I think this video is running a little long on time, but let me know in the comment section below if you'd like to see a tips and tricks video for CypRyan's Wide and Tall. There are a lot of unique combinations, especially with governors and tall extensions that are really powerful, and some people will definitely overlook them. Other things like which tiles to improve that'll benefit you further in the long run, or maybe which districts are more important than the others. If you'd like to see a video with me showcasing a bunch of tips and tricks, make sure to let me know. Regardless, I hope you found this video educational in some sense. I feel like CypRyan's wide and tall without exaggeration has inspired me to play more Civ 6, as I can crank out more games much faster, still be competitive, and on par with the Deity AI. Not to mention, I'm not a big fan of micromanagement, and I gotta say, I just love this mod. I can't say it enough. Thank you so much for watching, and please make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. I don't use this channel often, but if you do want to subscribe, you can. I don't promise, though, that I will be uploading consistently. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, even if it's another 6 years from now.